Peace, it's Farmer Courtney here with a quick tutorial of how to turn organic navy beans into a protein powder that you can use for everyday cooking and have in your go bag for survival situations. And why I use the navy bean is because of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in books 1 and 2. You can learn all about it. So it starts really simply with one ingredient, organic navy beans. So you take your organic navy beans, and the first step that you want to do is you want to sort them. So when beans are being processed, a stone can be the same size as a bean. So the way I was taught was that you lay them out in a cookie sheet and you look. And these beans, thankfully, are very, very clean and well prepared. And so then you want to add those to a pot of water. I already have some soaking and started here. And you just repeat that with whatever. And I'm not including a recipe with exact amounts because it's really dependent on what your scale, how many people that you need to think about and prepare for and plan for. And so again, very, very clean. There's no grasses or dirt or stones or anything in these. Very thankful about that. Dump it in. And then I'll be adding more water to this because you want to have a really high amount. Then once you've soaked your beans, I usually soak them for at least 6 hours. I cook them in the pressure cookers, and then you have nicely cooked beans that are easy to digest, because part of the inspiration for this was really wanting to have a digestible source of navy bean protein powder for survivalist situations. So then the next step is you take your drained, these I cooked on the dry side, so I cooked them kind of long and slow and not a lot of excess water, so it produces kind of a drier, non-messy bean. However, I recommend putting a tray below the dehydrator tray of some kind to catch any kind of bean juices that will fall, because that does happen. Especially if you're doing this on a rotation where you're sorting, you're soaking, you're cooking, and then you're dehydrating, and then you're repeating. It can get a little bit messy because sometimes you'll be rushing and you won't make your beans exactly dry. I like to not overload the trays. So this is a tray from a food dehydrator. I recommend the Excalibur food dehydrator. Mine is an 8 tray, so it's just the Excalibur brand. You can use a variety of things. So you could do vegetables, you could do all kind of different things in it. And I'm gonna use my hands because it's just for my family. And I like to not have it too densely on there and allow for space. Get nice coverage of that. So then these are the trays. They slide right into the Excalibur food dehydrator. So I have this one loaded up, and then I'll just repeat that with the other ones and get them loaded up. I have space in here. You can fit all 8 trays. I have definitely done all 8 at once. So I am by no means an expert on food dehydrator comparison or food dehydrators. This is just one that I've had for a long time. They've been on the market for a super long time, and they have a good track record of service. So with mine, once I get it loaded up, I think I pretty much I settled on between vegetables and making yogurt, so right about there. And then I usually run this not quite overnight, like I'll be doing this preparation in the evening. Usually I make the beans during the day when the family is out and about, and then at night I'll load up the trays and I'll get this going. And so I usually do it overnight, and then at the end, when you're all set and ready, you just turn it off. And the way that this food dehydrator, it has a really nice, easy lid surface that comes right off. And then you want to check it, right? So you don't want any moisture in the bean, And so, you know, I let it go until it looks, you know, it's very dry. There's no moisture left. What I like about the Excalibur is it's not super high heat, but check it out. There's all kind of innovation happening all the time. So this is by no means a recommendation for this one particular one. It's more just an example to say the process that I've discovered is some sort of food dehydrator. So this is the dried bean, and then we blend that. All right, so now that we have, you know, our beans dehydrated, there's a couple things that you can do. So if you're in a hurry and you're not able to run the blender, or you can store them in glass jars, because like I said, there's no moisture. This is not at all practical for preparing for any kind of disaster or survival preparedness. Glass jars shatter, so all of your work and investment into this isn't going to work. But you know, when you're just at home and you need something, you can put them in jars. You could add this, you know, if you were in a situation where you had your portable little single burner butane stove, or you could, you know, make something like boiling tea, make a broth with dehydrated vegetables, add that, and that, you know, that's something. But then you could go to the next stage of this, and this does kind of make a mess because these have openings. So I just recommend some kind of tray to catch the excess dust and things. You'll, you know, and sometimes it spills off the thing. But what's really nice about this is that they do, you know, allow you to just quickly make a funnel, and then I add that right to a blender. And then I recommend using a really powerful blender such as a Vitamix. Vitamixers are available in restaurant supply places. You can often get really good deals on restaurant supply. Most of them will sell to the public, and it works for years. So recommend having a really powerful blender. If you don't have a powerful blender, I would just do it in really small batches. So this blender can hold one tray of this easily. I have done more than one at once, but you know, my goal was to get a really finely ground, easily dissolvable and hideable product, so I can get a quarter cup into, you know, a recipe for a mango lassi smoothie or something without any kind of detection that there's bean in there. You can add this to crackers. Like if you wanted to have some vacuum sealed homemade crackers, you could add this to your cracker recipe to increase the nutritional value. And so this you would just blend, and then the end result of blending this, you know, it creates a vortex. You shouldn't really have to bang the beans around too much and do too much stirring. It should just sort of naturally come. I've had great success with that. And then you'll have this, and then again with the glass issue, I opted for using one of the food savers, and this is about a cup and a half to 2 cups. It really depends on what you're preparing for, right? So if you want, you have to be thinking of, you know, I wouldn't recommend if you have a whole blender, you know, a whole jar full of it, to do it all in one bag, unless you're cooking, you know, for a huge community of people, or having to provide for a huge community of people. I would recommend, I'm going to be even buying a smaller that's not as wide, so that, you know, if you're thinking about the different humidity conditions, the different moisture conditions that you're going to be facing, the whole variety of things that can come up for disaster preparedness and survival, small amounts of sealed navy bean protein powder would serve you better than doing one large one. And so I'm gonna keep working on this. So to make these, you'll need one of these food savers, any kind of vacuum sealer type thing. So the process starts with whatever bags you decide on. You have to make a bag. So there's the vacuum sealing channel, and then there's just the sealing strip. So you line up your bag, the sealing strip, click the things, the light goes off, and then let it go, and then you'll have a sealed bottom of the bag. And so you just repeat that for however many bags you have going on. And then you have your your sealed bag, you would add your powder in. I'm making a new round, so I'm just going to do end of this. And you want to make sure that you have a clean, straight edge that's cut on that, and put that down into the vacuum channel. This takes a minute to kind of get lined up. Same, click the tab. And then you have your bags for storage. All right, so I'm gonna keep working at the kitchen, putting food by, and I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below if you have any questions about this process. My cameraman is busy doing other things, so had to put this together kind of choppy style, but a special thank you to Sister Tequila Muhammad for her tireless effort to bring the importance of disaster preparedness to the top of our minds. And this was also inspired by the work of Dr. Wesley Muhammad when he spoke about his wife being a scientist in the kitchen, and how you know, they drink the bean, they eat the bean. And I was asking questions of how to be better prepared with navy beans, because I had many years, I had a 17-year stretch where I was a very strict vegan, and you know, eating beans that are not properly prepared is no joke. And so I was starting to think about disaster preparedness, and then I had this experience at the farmer's market where I had some navy bean soup that I had prepared. I'd been there all day long, and I cracked open my thermos of navy bean soup at the end of the day and realized that I had it in there for longer than the 6 hours that's recommended. So there was a slight tanginess that brought my mind to the hours that it had been sitting in there. And you know, as I was eating it, I recalled the video from the history of the Nation of Islam from back in the mid-70s, where the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's early life was spoken about and described, you know, the situation growing up and the food that the family would have to subsist on. And you know, he was describing eating spoiled beans that you know, were many days old, and putting vinegar on it to kill the taste. And that's where the creative thought process came for putting this this navy bean protein powder tutorial together, because I realized that there's a lot of pieces that we have to continuously think through. Like, there's the original instruction, and then we have to keep applying creativity to problem solving of what are we going to do, because when you're in a disaster situation, you typically don't have a lot of fuel. So even if you have a small pressure cooker with you, which I definitely recommend, even if it's impractical for daily family use, to have a small pressure cooker on hand that you could use on a single burner propane or butane type stove in a disaster situation, you're not going to have any kind of refrigeration, so you're going to have to keep repeating that. So then my mind went to, well, how could we make navy bean flour? And then when I started looking into the different resources on navy bean flour, I realized that just grinding something and making flour, which is typically how any flour is made, millet flour, wheat flour, you just take it and you grind it, that's not going to be right for your stomach. That's not the exact preparation that's needed. So put it all together, and if you're still watching, I thank you. I'm going to be putting out more videos about holistic resources to have together for your to-go bag, so that, like, different homeopathy, essential oils, and herbs. You can subscribe to my channel to check that out, or hit the link and go to my website, and you can get my free crash course that I made about God's healing arsenal, so you can see all the different things that you'll need to have to be ready to remedy the situation. And leave me a comment below if you have any questions about this tutorial, because it was just kind of pieced together, and I want to make sure that it's clear and that nobody has any questions. So look forward to hearing from you soon. Peace.